I bought all of the Galaxy Buds. Every single one. This is going to be the definitive video that decides whether you upgrade from one of the older ones to the newer ones, or whether you stick with what you've got. Let's go. Today's going to be a big one. I want to go through everything to do with all of these Galaxy Buds, right back from the OG pair all the way through to the Buds 3 Pro. Let's dive in straight away by looking at the design of the cases. To make things simple, I have paired together cases that are a similar design, so we don't go through every single individual one. That way, it should hopefully speed up the process. Starting with the original Galaxy Buds and the Buds Plus. These are pretty much the same in terms of their case design. Samsung borrowed or took from their original Gear Icon X, which I didn't bother trying to get because they were both pretty awful earphones. Even if they had a lot of technology, they just weren't very good and not really worth it in this test, because if you have a pair of those, upgrade immediately. These were both the small and pill-shaped design, which I liked. The Buds being this sort of a matte finish, whereas the Buds Plus had this glossy sort of look on it. The OG Buds can actually fit and charge inside the Buds Plus case, but I couldn't get it to work going back the other way. They both support wireless charging, which is a huge advantage in charging the Buds and the case, and they both fit comfortably into pockets. This little pill-shaped was really nice to sort of slip in and out of that little tight front coin pocket that jeans are sort of starting to get now, and they are really easy to handle in that way. The hinge on the cases were fairly strong and robust. The OG Buds had this nice sort of snap into place, which made it a little bit harder to close them, whereas the Buds Plus lost that snap and was just kind of firm all the way through. They had a really weird pairing mechanism. The Buds OG, when you opened the case and paired for the first time, you had to put the Buds into your ears and then hold the side down 3 seconds on each Bud, which was really odd for a first pairing and sort of like a bit of a roadblock to getting them started. My roadblock was the fact that this Bud here is completely destroyed. Joys of having children. Samsung then changed to this square circle design, where it's sort of like a square, but it's rounded on all the corners and the sides. And for the Buds Live, Buds 2, and Buds FE, this is the design of case that you've got. Now, it's not colored. It's glossy white around the outside. And you'll notice that if the Buds do have a color, if they're not white, there is a colored lip sort of around, indicating to you what color those Buds are. Inside each case is the color of those Buds too. Again, supports wireless charging, with the exception of the Buds FE, which is disappointing. When you get used to that convenience of wireless charging with the case, it can be a bit sort of harrowing to go back to just cable charging. Not the end of the world. I've been using the Buds FE for 12 months and I just have to remember to plug it in every week and a half or so. But wireless charging is so much more convenient. The hinge on all of them, strong enough that you won't really have to worry about it. Similar to that, and in the same family, I guess, of case design, was the Buds Pro and Buds 2 Pro. For the Pro variants of their Buds, Samsung gave it the color of the Buds as the case design, which I guess stood them out from the non-Pro Buds, so you knew that these were Pro and these weren't. These two Pro cases also differentiated from each other again over these. Whilst the design was the same, the Buds Pro, the OG Buds Pro, had this sort of finish on it, this matte sort of soft touch finish, which feels really nice and premium in the hands and holds up well over time in terms of sort of putting it in and out of pockets. The Buds 2 Pro went for this almost rubberized matte finish, and I don't like it. The thing is, these are fairly easy to get in and out of your pockets. That little coin pocket that I was talking about before. Each of these sort of slip in and out very, very comfortably. The Buds 2 Pro, with this stupid rubber sort of feeling, make it really grippy to get in and out of your pockets. And I don't appreciate it. I think what Samsung were probably thinking is that it's gripping easier in the hands when you're opening the Buds case up, but we're all adults. We should be able to hold some cases in our hands, and you'll see the Samsung have fixed that. All of those were wireless charging as well. One thing I forgot to mention about the hinges, the Buds Pro hinge was awful. Just so weak. And then the Buds 2 Pro case fixed it. So I'm glad Samsung rectified the issue. This takes us to the case design of the Buds 3 and Buds 3 Pro. Samsung have completely redesigned the case. It doesn't resemble any of the previous cases. The pill shape, the squircle, it's gone. I guess in a way it is kind of like Samsung took this and just squashed it out flat. Even so, I think the design of the buds kind of dictated that the case had to change design. Instead of it being like a hinge and like equal halves, it's a flip top, kind of like a pack of Tic Tacs. And I think the hinge kind of is stronger for that as well. It has a nice satisfying sort of clack about it when it opens and shuts. The thing I like about these a lot is the finish on them is good. Like the glossy one I could take or leave, but the grey one with the transparent sort of grey colour is nice. I really appreciate that you can see through and see the buds. It's a nice touch. They have this button on the bottom. When you press it, it lights up the battery indicator. Outside of that, I can't figure out what it does. If you know, chuck it down in the comments, but I haven't really tried to find out because if it like resets the buds, that's a bit annoying. So I haven't done it. These wireless charge as well, which I think is, again, super convenient and probably expected. So yeah, this is the new design. These go into pockets really nicely. This coin pocket at the front of your jeans, these will slip in and out of there very, very seamlessly. And I think a big part of that is because they're a lot slimmer. The buds sort of in this design are a lot thicker. So they sit above and then they protrude out from the pants a little bit more, protruding pants. These, however, won't do that. These are a bit more slimline, even if they're a little bit wider. Okay, moving away from the case and onto the design of the fit of the buds themselves. Like I said, I'm going to try and keep some of the design of buds that are the same grouped together. And for this one, I've got 3. That is the Buds OG, the Buds Plus, and the Buds FE. All 3 of these had Samsung's wingtip design. This wingtip design was fantastic. It was a true differentiator for keeping them comfortable in your ears. And when I sort of used them at the start, I raved about them because it was so comfortable. From the moment you slipped them in your ears, you felt back at home. The Buds OG were great, but the Buds Plus had this absolute perfect sort of sweet spot of size, comfort, that just made sure that they stayed in your ear and you didn't feel like they were too overbearing whilst they were in there. What I really liked is that Samsung brought that back with the Buds FE. And last year I recommended the Buds FE over the 2s and the 2 Pros purely because of their comfort. Putting them in your ears just feels so nice. And through dynamic activity, whether that be at sort of outdoor activity or whether it be just sort of putting your head through its paces, like laughing and that sort of embarrassing mouth action, it feels so comfortable and they don't move. It's because that wingtip sort of sits and sort of stops it from moving out and then it's sealed nicely once it's in your ear. It's just a perfect combination of fit. I also like too that the touch areas are a little bit flatter. So if you need to adjust while they're in your ear, you're not adjusting and touching the touchpad. You're adjusting a defined area. You know where the touchpad is, you know where the adjustment period is. Perfect design for this type of sort of earbud and fits really comfortably. All 3 of these really are good. I think the Buds Plus is probably the best if I'm honest, because the speaker was a little bit further away. It created this sort of chamber. It fit more comfortably. The Buds FE kind of, I think, used maybe cheaper materials and they felt a little bit harder in the ears compared to the Plus. So of these 3, the Buds Plus are probably still the best designed buds of these generations. Next up is the Buds Live. I had never used these before, and I think I dismissed them purely because of their design, and at the time, there was a lot of negativity around the open type ANC, so I never got them. But that was a mistake. I picked these up last week, and in my week with them so far, their design is unbelievable. They had like nothing you'll ever see this day and age with the buds. No one will ever try and make a design like this again. And this sort of bean shaped, as they were affectionately known, was really quite cute. This top part, you'd think would be the part that you listen to sound out of, but it's not. The sound comes out of this bottom section. There it is trying to pair to my computer. And the fact that they just seamlessly, like there is a learning curve with their fit. You do have to sort of watch a bit of a video, but once you get that sort of habit, they're so comfortable to wear. And dynamic activity, it kind of lends itself to the Buds Plus in that there is this small little wingtip that you can see sort of just at the top there that sort of securely holds it in its place. And once they're in, they're in. They are so well molded to the shape of your ear and they just sort of look sort of natural once they're in there. I really like the design and the fit and dynamic activity and sort of exercise. These are really good. Buds Pro were next. And just to say it straight away, probably the worst designed buds Samsung have ever made. They are huge. They are far too big for their size. This hump that you sort of see here, that is just atrocious when it comes to fitting in your ear. It constantly pushes itself out of the ear canal to the point where any sort of activity, whether it just be general use, they will fall out. Of course, exaggerated activity comes a lot quicker, but the fact is that they were just uncomfortable. I think when I first got them, I was running quite heavily, not so much these days, but I was so excited to try these because they were water resistant to a really good level. And I thought, great, running in the rain, I don't have to worry about my buds anymore. I think I lasted maybe 2 weeks with them, and I went straight back to the Buds Plus because they were so much more comfortable for running, and I wasn't constantly adjusting, accidentally skipping tracks, because another part of it too was the touch area wasn't defined. So where on the Buds Plus you had that sort of surface area that was glossy and then the other area for sort of adjustment, these didn't have that. And that made using these incredibly infuriating and painful. They hurt my ears. So absolute, if you have a set of Buds Pro, I would not hesitate to go for an upgrade immediately. Samsung didn't really upgrade the Buds Pro straight away. They instead decided to do the Buds 2 first. And because the Buds Pro were kind of like the upgrade of Buds Plus, the Buds 2 were the upgrade of Buds. But not really, that's just how it was sort of, I guess, explained away. The Buds 2 design, Samsung just went about making comfortable buds. They reduced the design drastically and kind of, I guess, in a way, created like a hybrid design of the Buds Live and the Buds Pro, because you can see elements of that bean shape in here, but none of the sort of secure fit that the Live and the Plus had, and none of the hump that the Buds Pro had. So putting them in your ear was comfortable. Immediately when I put these in for the first time, they actually felt really comfortable in the ear. There wasn't this overload of pressure. Samsung did a good job of sort of contouring them to the shape. Problem was, there was nothing holding them in there. So they were small, and that smallness kind of meant that they were too small. And again, through dynamic activity, they just didn't hold their place as well. And these were worse for accidental touches because the surface touch area was not defined at all. It was just all one sort of unibody design in a way. You can still kind of see a seam. You can see a seam there, but it just did not sort of lend itself to being able to adjust on the move. And again, when you're working out, when you're on the go, you need to adjust sometimes, even if it's just for fiddling reasons. So the fact is that they just didn't do that. And again, they were comfortable, way more comfortable than the Buds Pro, but for dynamic activity, didn't cut it. Then the Buds 2 Pro came along. Samsung redeemed themselves with this. They are about 15% smaller than the Buds Pro. They still stuck with that design philosophy where it's got this hump that sort of is meant to stay in the ear, and this tip part is sort of meant to sort of replicate what the Buds Plus had. And they did work. They were much, much better. Putting these in the ear is so much more comfortable than any of the other Samsung buds that I've spoken about, with the exception of Buds Plus. They're still the king. So I think Samsung did a great job with these. The soft materials that they used also didn't feel like it was heavily pressurizing the ear, didn't hurt the ear. And all the other design elements too kind of helped alleviate the pressure that builds up, when you are sort of doing dynamic activity. However, they still weren't perfect. The design of them still didn't really give you that security that these would stay there. And again, the fiddly part with the touch area, you would definitely stumble across accidental touches and skip tracks and pause tracks. Takes us to the Buds 3 and Buds 3 Pro. Samsung threw everything out. All what they've done before, they've sort of gone back and started again. And one of them, it works really well. The other one, it just doesn't. The Buds 3, I hate these so much. I don't know what it is. In fact, I know exactly what it is. Samsung didn't use any sort of soft tips on the ear part with these, and they don't feel comfortable. When you put these in your ear, the hard plastic that digs straight into your ear canal and just feels like gritty. Gritty's the wrong word. It just feels hard. I could liken it to a pair of like old earphones, the cheap ones where you're sticking them in your ear and you're trying to find the spot and it just digs, and very uncomfortable and unpleasant. These were like that. Once they're in there, they're not so bad. The advantage it has is the blade design removes the element of the touch area to a different part of the blade, I guess you could call it. Well, it's what it is called, away from here. So if you do have to adjust, you're not accidentally touching anything. And you will adjust these though, because they don't sort of push in and sort of sit nicely. They almost sit on top, and I don't like it. Buds 3 Pro, completely different proposition. Even if the design of the bud is the same, the fit is so much better. It's all down to that silicone tip sort of resting in there and sort of securing a place comfortably. These work really well through dynamic activity, and you will not find yourself needing to adjust or move these through sort of stuff. So out of these two design, this is the winner. Of the design of all the buds, I would say the Buds 3 Pro and the Buds Plus, by far my favorite. Brings us to sound. The last week, I've listened to a lot of Oasis, to not a lot of surprise, I guess. They are back, which is great. I hope they come to Australia. This sound test is not going to be super scientific. It's not my vibe when it comes to music. I just like to sit and enjoy it. And if it sounds good, it sounds good. I know what sounds good and what won't. Just to preface, all the settings for the sound test are the same on all the buds. Dynamic equalizer with Dolby Atmos turned on and 360 audio turned right the way off. It was unfortunate I couldn't test the Buds OG and the Buds Plus. Despite all my efforts to hard reset them, I couldn't get them connected. Buds OG, for obvious reasons. Buds Plus just wouldn't connect. I opened the case and nothing happened. I could talk about my previous experience. The Buds OG were good. The Buds Plus absolutely were a nice sounding pair of headphones. They kind of reminded me of the Buds FE in a way where they're not excellent. Definitely, probably I would say better than the Buds FE, but they're just not as good. I remember going from the Buds Plus to the Buds Pro and thinking, wow, what a jump. So that was what my memory of that was like. So if you have a pair of Buds Plus, I'd love to know your current experience right now in the comments below. Buds Live was sort of the first ones I got to try in this sort of test, and they sound okay. I think for me, they sounded nice for podcasts and sort of general music listening. But if you are a music aficionado, these probably won't cut it. They were a little quiet when it came to listening to music and a little bit sort of, I would say, high. They didn't have a lot of depth of the sound. Sort of didn't blend into each other, but the sound didn't have sort of contrast. And I like contrast when it comes to music, particularly Oasis music. You kind of need that. So I feel like it didn't really have that when I was listening to music with the Buds Live. The Buds Pro were definitely louder. They had a nice sort of volume to it, and you could definitely hear it. But I think it suffered from a very similar fate to the Buds Live in that, again, that there wasn't that depth there. They're a little on the high side, and especially having used some of the newer buds, there was a bit of a flatness to it. The thing is, if you just isolated the Buds Pro on their own, the sound is very good. But it's over 3 years old now. And there's lots of buds that have come out that have progressively made sound better. And the Buds Pro has kind of been left behind. The Buds 2 had a softer sound compared to the Pros. And I think that's obvious, right? If they're not pro level buds, they are sort of downgraded in that way. The way I sort of liken this is the Buds 2 are kind of like a good pair of Bluetooth speakers. Whereas the Buds Pro and later the Buds 2 Pro are kind of like a stereo surround speakers. Because you get a better depth, more contrast to the sound. Whereas the Buds 2 kind of just provides good sound. And that's okay. That's what you pay for. The Buds 2 Pro had excellent sound right from the start. Samsung kind of took all of their experience from the Buds leading up to that and made this incredible sound package. And I think even now, even with the Buds 3 Pro out, this sound that comes out of the 2 Pros holds up excellently well. That's a really terrible phrase. I'm just going to use it. There's a really good sound profile. There's deep sound, sort of good contrast. Immediately when you put these on after coming from all the previous ones, you notice the difference straight away. If you are happy with these, there is no need to upgrade from a sound perspective. These are very, very good. The Buds FE, in comparison to what I'd listened to before it, yeah, there's obvious deficiencies in the sound profile. What I said last year when I did my Buds comparison was that the Buds FE aren't about the best sound experience. What they are about is good value for money and good comfort and sort of secure fit. That is their value proposition. And when you compare it to the Buds 2 Pros, you're not going to get a fair fight because the Buds 2 Pro, the sound experience and everything else complete that package. The Buds FE, I said this last year, are like a good pair of TV speakers where your TV has a good speaker coming out the back of it. You're like, oh yeah, that's good. Whereas the other ones, as soon as you bring like a soundbar into the mix, put that soundbar on, you're like, oh, okay, there's a difference here. That's what that's like. The Buds FE are kind of just like, if you don't know any better, they'll be fine. Now onto the Buds 3. Despite what I said about the fit of these, the sound is actually very good. The only thing I didn't really like about them is they're not as loud as I would have liked. And a lot of that's probably to do with the fact that they don't sit in the ear and create that seal. They sort of sit above or over the ear, which depending on your preference, you might prefer that. It's a little bit high, but the audio is sharp and there's the contrast there. Immediately though, when I put the Buds 3 Pro on, I noticed the jump in quality. These are evidently the best Galaxy Buds Samsung have made, hands down, from a sound level, and I guess from a package level. There's good balance, it's loud, but it's crisp. The contrast is there, there's good depth to sound, good bass. They are a joy to listen to. Talk a little bit about the software in a moment, but just from a sound level, wow, I was blown away. Before we get into software, I want to talk about the ANC and the microphones. It's quite interesting because the ANC sort of only came in with the Buds Live, but they were never really ANC. Samsung communicated it as ANC initially, and then had to sort of clarify, actually it's an open type. So it's ANC that kind of blocks out a certain frequency of noise, but keeps it open for other noises. And I think once you understand that, you understand the Buds a lot better. You get what they're about because they have that sort of open feel to them. You can hear things, like it doesn't block out everything. It just sort of blocks out some things. And that's okay once you understand it. The Pros and the Buds 2 Pro and the Buds 2, they all had really good ANC. The Buds FE actually had really good ANC because of the fact that they had that seal with the sort of wingtip and the sort of silicon tip, sort of blocked out passively, kind of like the Buds Plus did. And with active noise cancellation on top of that, you've got a really good sort of combination to block out noise. The Buds 3 is very similar to the Buds Live in that they feel like that open type ANC where you can still sort of hear external noise coming through, whereas the Buds 3 Pro, excellent. Hands down the best ANC experience on any of Samsung's Galaxy Buds, passive or otherwise, because it sort of gives you a combination of both as well. And then the microphone is kind of, I guess, closely tied into that. There was a clear winner here into the microphone quality from the Buds Live all the way through to the Buds 3 Pro, but you listen and be the judge for yourself. This is the Galaxy Buds Live and talking into the microphone with these, and you'll probably see as it progressively gets on, the quality is probably going to either improve or sort of be about the same. But this is the Galaxy Buds Live using the Pro Video mode and the Bluetooth connection. Buds Pro turn, and this was the first sort of Pro Buds that Samsung have made. Epic sound, and they promised better microphones. So Buds Live to Buds Pro, this was the difference. On to Buds 2. Buds 2 turn properly. Again, they're falling out of my ears, but you can see the progression that Samsung was making. Good. So obviously going from the Pro, from Live to the Pro to these, you can sort of see a bit of a path, although these shouldn't be as good as the Pro. The Pro microphone should be better. Buds 2 Pro next. These should be a huge jump in quality over from the Buds 2. Probably a little bit from the Pro as well. Samsung did do a lot with the microphones on the Buds 2 Pro. But let me know your thoughts on how these sound so far. Keep a track of which ones you like, which ones you didn't like, and then you can leave them in the comments, but it'll be the Buds FE turn next. Scared for those. Buds FE now. And I reckon that these probably have the weakest microphones of the ones we're testing, the Buds and the Buds Plus. Unfortunately, couldn't get it to work. So from the ones that we've got, this is probably going to be the weakest microphone set. But again, it might not be. And for their price, they might be okay. That'll be for you to judge in the comments below. And now it's time for the Buds 3. And then next will be the Buds 3 Pro. The thing that this should do is because it's got this blade design, the microphone should be much better with its quality. Because of the fact it's a bit closer to the mouth and going to be picking up the voice a lot better, it should be a better quality sound with the voice. Buds 3 Pro we kind of know already because I did that in a video last time, but that'll be up next. But this is the standard Buds 3 and this is the Buds 3 Pro. God, these are so much better in the ears than the Buds 3. They feel so uncomfortable. So the microphone on this is probably the top tier microphone quality from a pair of Buds that Samsung make. There is the 360 audio setting that you can also turn on for these, but I much prefer actually this versus the 360 audio. Don't know why, this just sounds cleaner and clearer, picks up my voice a lot better. And that brings us to software. There's some really interesting things when it comes to software. There's a lot to cover, but I thought rather than just cover everything, I'll sort of highlight the interesting things that I found. The Buds Pro was Samsung's first Buds to offer like the voice detect function, where if you detected external noise or external conversation, it would switch from ANC to ambient sound. Now, over time, this function has evolved quite well, where now on the Buds 3 Pro, you can control the ambient sound level, and you can also control the active noise cancellation level. So I think its starting point here was this, and now with the Buds 3 Pro, you have things like siren controls on top of it. So it's evolved in that way. But not every bud has this. The Buds 2, for example, only have ANC and ambient sound. But it's also odd in that the ambient sound has different step volumes. So it can be high, medium, or low. No other bud, apart from the Buds 3 Pro now, has that sort of step volume. It's weird that the software has that and other ones don't. The Buds Live and the standard Buds 3 both have ANC, but I would say that they both don't have ANC because it's sort of like this open type active noise cancellation where it still allows sort of external noise through, and its idea is to block out the duller sort of sounds, like the thicker noise, and let sort of the higher pitch frequencies come through. It's an interesting concept. People hated it with the Buds Live. They just misunderstood it though. And the Buds 3 is the same in that sense. From the Buds 2 Pro to the Buds 3 Pro, there's some significant software differences. With the Buds 3 Pro, Samsung have put in adaptive noise cancellation, where it will kind of judge the environment around you to decide sort of how much noise to let in, how much noise to block out. The ANC also on the Buds 3 Pro has sort of multiple step levels, whereas the Buds 2 Pro don't have that. It's just ANC on or ANC off. The thing is, the voice detect functions also here on the Buds 2 Pro, as is 360 audio. The one thing that's very different between the new Buds and the old ones is the labs function. Samsung put in like a labs function to sort of double press sort of the tip of or the top of the Buds, sort of change volume. It was very finicky, very experimental. Because of the new blade design with the Buds 3 and Buds 3 Pro, they actually moved that into the blade design with a swipe up and swipe down. You no longer need to have it in labs, and it's much more of a better sort of system. So you've got the information. There is so much here. So many pairs of buds, so much sort of information to sort of trawl through. You can decide now whether you stick, whether you twist. And I think it could be harder than you might think. Getting over the barrier of the Buds 3 and 3 Pro's design being very much a nod to the AirPods might be too much for you. But once you sort of get past it, and understand that maybe Apple knew what they were doing, you can probably enjoy the experience a lot better because they are exceptional, especially the Buds 3 Pro. Hit subscribe, come follow me on all my socials. I've got a big few months ahead leading into the new year as well. I'll see you guys in the next one.